So hopefully she can get in shortly. All right. With that, we can go ahead and go into our meeting. Are there any additions or revisions, Lisa?
Yes, we did have a typo that we located. It is on page 501 of the agenda. It's in item number 6. It's on the 3rd paragraph. We referred to the budget that we adopted this year in June as the fiscal year 19-20 budget, and we did in fact adopt the 2021 budget. So we just want to correct that typo.
Very good. All right. With that, anyone on the consent calendar or anyone wishing to speak to the consent calendar as far as for public comment? All right. Does anyone have any items they wish to pull for public or for the consent calendar? No, not seeing any
Move
hands
to approve.
raised. Thank you, Burns.
Second.
Choice of second. So I think Supervisor Jeffries had his hand up too. We'll go with that one. And with that, we'll go and do a roll call for the consent calendar.
District 1,
Yes. Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes, yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona,
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Tarupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Murrieta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs, Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
and Wildemar.
Yes.
That item passes.
All right. With that, we'll go into item number 6, the fiscal year 2021, or sorry, 2020, 2021 organizational recommendations. Ann.
Good morning, Commissioners. The item before you today is a recommendation to approve 2 items, one being to approve a revised fiscal year 2021 salary range structure, and the second is to approve a budget adjustment in the amount of $504,000 for fiscal year 2021 budget for salaries and benefits, expenditures related to the reinstatement of merit increases, a salary range cost of living adjustment, and for funding the vacant planning and programming director position. These items were reviewed by the executive committee last month. As a normal part of our budget process, usually in the spring of each year, I review my recommendations with the executive committee related to the organization. In April and May of this year, clearly we were at the very beginning of the COVID crisis, and out of an abundance of caution, I made recommendations to the executive committee that in addition to the hiring freeze I had already imposed under my own authority, that we also suspend merit increases for the next fiscal year, that we suspend any salary range adjustments, and that we eliminate funding for 4 vacant positions from our fiscal year budget. So basically we're putting everything on hold while we analyzed what the potential financial impacts could be related to Measure A resources. So 6 months later, we have now received approximately 6 months worth of receipts post-COVID. Interestingly enough, we are not seeing the kinds of declines that we had expected to see. We've been monitoring those very closely. And in fact, yesterday, the Self-Help County Coalition had a meeting with the director of the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, related to what they're seeing, because frankly, our receipts for the past several months have been equal to or greater than what we saw last year. The trends are changing in that while some categories are down, other categories are up. So we are not seeing the kind of financial impact on Measure A sales tax that we had anticipated. So I'm recommending today the budget adjustment. One of the 4 vacant positions I am now recommending we fill is the Director of Planning and Programming. You may recall Shirley Medina retired last year. It is an important position. That position is responsible for being liaison with the California Transportation Commission, with SCAG, with our partners across the state in addressing not just SB1 related issues, but financial policy and programming issues. It's a crucial position. That position is also the primary lead for coordination with each of your jurisdictions as they participate in our technical advisory committee. So it is a very important position at RCTC. And if the budget adjustment is approved today, then that position will be funded and we can move to proceed to fill that as soon as possible. The other 2 items are related to employee wages. RCTC operates on a merit system related to any pay raises. We do not have step increases. On an annual basis, a merit pool is identified, performance is evaluated for each employee, and employees based on their performance evaluation can receive a merit increase up to the limit identified by the commission. I'm proposing to reinstate that process. And the salary range structure is merely a cost of living adjustment on the salary ranges themselves. So we conduct a classification and compensation study approximately every 3 to 5 years. In between that, by policy, we normally adjust based on consumer price index on an annual basis. So we are also requesting that the salary range COLA be reinstated. That will not have an immediate impact on the majority of RCTC employees. It will require that 7 employees who are currently at the bottom of their salary range, they will receive a 2.9% increase automatically if the commission approves this today. It roughly is equivalent to about $200 a month for each of those individuals. So with that, that's a summary of what's included in this budget adjustment. And I request your approval of the budget adjustment of $400,000 and approval of a revised fiscal year 2021 salary range. Happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you very much. Do you have any public comment on this item? Not seeing anyone with their hand raised. If you're on the phone, you would hit *9, or if you're on your Zoom app, hit the raise hand button at the bottom of the participants list. All right, not seeing any hands raised. Any members of the body wish to make any comments?
Move to approve, Paris.
Second, Banning.
Second by Banning. Unless there's any further comments, we'll go ahead and take a roll call. Oh, I
District
see,
1. Oh, sorry.
Commissioner White's hand is raised. Commissioner White?
Yes, sorry for the late. I was hoping to hear a little more comments on this issue. As I did in the executive board meeting when we considered this, I'd like to call for a division of the question, if it's not too late, to pull out the funding for the planning and programming director as a separate item. And I did have a quick question on the salary ranges. I'm okay pulling that out as well. My concern is the merit increases. I just don't know that it's a time to do that yet. And we're trying to hold the line on those kinds of increases at our local level. Our city manager actually volunteered not to take an increase this year. And I just think it's difficult for me to support merit increases when I'm looking at trying to hold the line in our city. Even though the numbers look good for our city, looks like we have strong reserves and our tax income is looking better than we expected, but we still don't know. And if the county goes back into the purple tier, it's just, I think it's too soon to make these kinds of decisions. So I would like the opportunity to vote on the merit increases as a separate item. So I'm calling for a motion for a division of the question.
I'll second that.
I'll second. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So would the original motion makers be okay with bifurcating and making it two separate items?
No, let's vote on whether we want to bifurcate it or not.
Okay, I guess we'll take a, so the motion on the table that I have a first and a second for is to put all of it together. And it sounds like I have a substitute motion to bifurcate. So we'll take the substitute motion first to bifurcate this item. And this is just a question of whether to bifurcate. Correct? All right. With that, Lisa will take a roll call unless there's any comments or questions on this separation motion that's now on the table.
District 1,
I support bifurcating.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
No.
District 4,
No.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
No.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Take exit 14A
Canyon Lake?
for I-495
Yes.
south toward Cape Cod.
14A.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Canyon Lake.
Yes.
Thank you. Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona,
Yes.
Desert Hot Springs,
Yes.
Eastville, Eastville, Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells, Indian Wells,
No.
Indio,
No.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Yes.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
No.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
No.
Paris,
Oh.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
No.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
No.
Half a mile.
What? Half a mile.
just adding one moment. Okay, the vote is 21-10 in favor of bifurcating the motion.
All right. So we'll go ahead and bifurcate those two items. Karen Spiegel, I see every hand raised. Supervisor?
My question was, and I didn't get it in before, did we get the merit increases last year and the year before? I mean, every year we've gotten the merit increases, or was there ever one that we had skipped in recent years?
So for the past 4 or 5 years, merit increases have been included in the budget. I'd have to go back and verify. We prior to that, because of the recession, I think we went through approximately 4 years of frozen salaries as a result of the recession. So I think they were reinstated in 2015. I'd have to go back and double check that. So during the recession, we went through multiple years of no pay increases. But just a couple other points. RCTC employees tend to stay for very long time. From a salary range perspective, that means that 20 to 25% of our employees are topped out, which means even if they were very high performing and even if their score was such that they would get a full 4% pay increase, they don't receive that because it goes outside of their range. So long answer to your question, but in short, it varies from year to year. But the past several years, we have received merit increases.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lorimore?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to apologize. I had some connection issues during that vote, which is why I did not. I would have voted in favor of bifurcating. Thank you.
I'll note that. Thank you.
Commissioner Gregory?
Thank you. Just for clarity, is the proposal for the salary or the merit increases, would that go retroactive back to the beginning of the fiscal year, or would that be occurring sometime in the future if passed?
It would be retroactive back to July 1st.
Thank you.
I mentioned this in the staff report. The $504,000 budget adjustment, in addition to what was previously approved for salaries and benefits, RCTC still has salaries and benefits totaling less than 1% of our $1.3 billion budget. So we continue to be very, very lean, even with this increase.
All right, very good. So at this point, we have a bifurcated item for the, and Commissioner White, correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted to bifurcate the salary range merit increase from the planning and program director item?
Yes, I was also in favor of keeping the salary ranges. So item 1 with the planning and programming director approved.
Commissioners, the total budget adjustment for that I would recommend would be $175,000. If I could have Teresa verify for me that that amount is sufficient for those two items.
So what's on the table now, I think I'd still probably need a motion for would be the approved revised fiscal salary ranges and the planning and program director item.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the planning and programming director.
All right, so this is just for that item on the planning and program director, and Commissioner White, that will also include the salary ranges, right? That you wanted to keep that item?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and Supervisor Washington, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I'm a little bit confused. On the agenda, there are two items that we're being asked to approve. Number 1 is to approve the revised 2021 salary ranges. And then number 2 is to approve the increase of $504,000 for 2021 budget for salaries and benefits expenditures related to reinstatement of merit increases, salary range of cost of living adjustment, and the funding for planning and programming director. So I was confused by the bifurcation. I assumed that we were going to vote on item number 1 separately and then item number 2 separately. So what is it exactly that has been bifurcated?
Well, the original motion was to vote on all 3 of those items together. You're correct. It's listed as 1, 2 on the agenda, but there is an and in the second number 2. I guess this is a question for our attorney. Is it okay if we go ahead and take that and planning commissioner director and move that up to item number 1? Or do we need to vote on all 3 of these items separately since we're technically sort of bifurcating the second ask in that? I'll look to our attorney for that.
And Mr. Chairman, yes. I'm okay with that bifurcation. I just wanted clarity. Yeah. So are we now actually voting on 3 things, or have we already approved number 1?
We have not approved anything other than we approved the idea of bifurcating.
Okay,
So-
so then we have
bifurcation-
three items to vote on then.
Well, I'm asking if we can take what sounds like there's, okay, everyone's okay with the first, or with two of the items, which is approve the revised fiscal year 2021 salary ranges and the planning director program item. So I'm looking to our attorney to see if that's okay if we take those two as an action item.
Yes, we can break out the agenda items as the board sees fit. So
okay,
moving on to item 1 and the second half of item 2 and putting them together independent from the first portion of item 2 is appropriate.
And what I would recommend, item number 2 is revised to is, and Teresa verify, I was wrong on the number, I apologize. Approve an increase of $240,000 in the fiscal year 2021 budget for salaries and benefit expenditures related to salary range cost of living adjustments and funding for the planning and programming director approved by the executive committee. That is the revised number 2. It changes the dollar amount and it deletes the reinstatement of merit increases.
Okay.
And are we voting then separately on that part and the remaining
Yes.
300,000?
We'll look for, once this is dispensed with, we'll look for a motion on that as a separate item.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on what Ann is telling us. She's saying that 304,000 or 240,000 rather covers the cost of the salary ranges as well as merit increases, salary range, cost of living adjustments for the planning and program director. Is that correct, Ann?
The $240,000 covers the salary range cost of living adjustments and that will impact multiple employees, and funding for the planning and programming director.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Harnick? I'm sorry, excuse me, Commissioner Harnick.
I'm so confused by all of this now. So are we going to put in the first motion the approval of an increase in funding so that it covers the salary ranges and planning and programming director position, and then go on in the second one and then put the difference in the increase for the fiscal year budget for the other positions? We got to have funding in both. If we're bifurcating, we're going to have to approve the funding for those positions.
Ann, you want to take that?
Okay, let me try again. I recommend that the first item you vote on is to approve the revised fiscal year 2021 salary ranges.
Okay.
And approve a budget increase of $240,000 in the fiscal year 2021 budget for salaries and benefit expenditures related to the salary range cost of living adjustment and funding for the planning and programming director. I recommend you vote on that first.
Okay, thank you.
And then if a commissioner chooses to make a motion for the balance of that funding for reinstatement of merit increases, that would be the second question, should you choose to.
Thank you.
So Ben, I will restate my motion to be what Ann said in the first part.
Very good. And Supervisor Jeffries, I assume you're okay with that as the seconder?
Yes.
Okay, and I have Commissioner Vinton has a question.
And just real quick, I think Ann answered it. The merit increases would not affect the salary range. Is that correct?
We're going to vote on that separately, the merit increases, right?
Correct. The merit increase question is completely separate from the salary range question.
That's what I want to make sure. Thank you very much.
All right, hopefully that gets enough clarity where we can go ahead and take a vote at this time, unless there's any other questions. I see a couple hands from previous questioners, and I believe we'll go ahead and go into roll call on that.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2? District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona,
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs, Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells,
Yes.
Indio,
Aye.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley,
Yes.
Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar.
Yes.
That item passes.
Lisa, I'm back. I'm going to have to reboot. My computer's whacking out with the Zoom. So Zoom told me I have to reboot. So the yes on this item.
Thank you. Did you hear the revised motion, Commissioner Spiegel?
With the two parts, the bifurcated, right? So this is the planning, the commission, or the commission and,
Yes, without the merit increases.
right. Yes, that I heard.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so now we have the separate item of the merit increases. And would staff like to speak to this separately, or would we like commissioner comments first?
Commissioner comments. My recommendation, it remains to proceed with the merit increases. We have a very, very significant workload. And as I mentioned before, our total salaries and benefits are less than 1% of our overall budget. And we are an extraordinarily lean organization and very, very prudent. And I request your approval of the merit increases for this fiscal year.
Move to approve.
Second, Paris.
A motion by Middleton, a second by Mayor Vargas. Any commissioners wish to speak to this? And I will go ahead and take the chair's prerogative and speak to it first. You know, this item originally came to our executive committee back when COVID was first sort of taking grips, and it was made clear to me in that meeting, and I followed the lead of some of our folks, because what I'd heard was the county was not doing these types of merit increases this year, coming into this fiscal year. And also that we wouldn't, that the county wasn't gonna be doing that. And so, you know, I recognize too, our cities were all at that point looking a little bit blindly into the dark, wondering what was gonna be happening. I recognize that Commissioner White feels that his city still has that potential cliff or whatever other fiscal issues, although he recognizes his own salaries, or excuse me, sales tax measures money has been continuing to come in at a pretty good clip. Our city has as well. But more importantly, when we were doing the due diligence work, I say we, excuse me, that when RCTC was doing the due diligence work to look at RCA, it became known to our employees at RCA that the merit increases had been given to the RCA employees. And then I asked them to look into further to find out if the county employees have been getting those merit increases this fiscal year as we came into it. And they had. So we now have our RCTC staff looking at RCA staff that got these increases when we decided to pull them out and not give them those increases. I find it very difficult to assume a separate organization that got increases when we were under the understanding they wouldn't get them, as well as the county wouldn't be getting them, but they have. So this might be different next fiscal year, but I feel very strongly for this fiscal year, we owe it to our employees that we told, sorry, no one else is getting this, so you're not gonna get it too. And now we find out other employees that we pointed at saying we're getting it. So I'll ask for an aye motion on this as well. And I feel very strongly this needs to pass so we can take care of our employees that we're about to ask a very hard workload to assume and bring in quite a bit of work for RCA. So those are my comments, and Supervisor Washington, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate your comments. I would just add, I think that comparing RCTC salary and pay and salary and benefit structure to the counties is kind of like comparing apples to pears. We have an extensive network, which I was not a part of creating, but I'm bound to honor, of labor agreements, MOUs, with just about every single employee on the property. So to try to negotiate holding off on those increases in pay that are guaranteed by contract is actually unlawful for the county to do. But I want to set that aside for a moment, because when I come to RCTC, I'm wearing my commissioner hat, and I'm looking at the job that Ann does day in and day out, running a very lean organization as an outstanding executive director. And she mentioned how long staff stay. That's a hallmark of a well-run organization where people love to come to work. They stay for a long time, even beyond what they would normally get pay increases for because of their longevity. She's asking us to give them what they have earned through the years. I'm going to be in support of this, not because the county has financial woes, which it does, and I get that cities have financial woes, but that's not the question here. The question here is, can RCTC afford to award these merit increases for well-deserving employees, and can it do it in a financially sustainable way? And I think the answer to that is an undeniable yes.
Thank you, Supervisor Washington. Commissioner Harnick?
I appreciate everything that both the chairman and Supervisor Washington said. I just have one question. I appreciate and support it. I have one question though, and it's just kind of going back to what I said before. Don't we have to then approve an increase in the budget in that motion for the reinstatement of merit increases?
Yes.
But we have to add that to the motion. And would that be the 264,000, which would be the difference between the 504 and the 240?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's include that. If that's acceptable to the motion maker, can we include that in the motion?
I'm seeing your heads nodding on that. As a yes.
That is acceptable.
Supervisor Hewitt?
Yeah, I'm going to be speaking in opposition to this motion, and I'm sure that's a big surprise to a lot of you. However, I think that bifurcating it was this is a good compromise. We're giving Ann, like I say, those salary ranges that people had topped out at, and then giving her a position to be able to fill a position that obviously we really need to do. But we live in a bubble right now. All of us on here have not been affected in the ways that so many of our constituents have. And like I say, I think this is a good compromise. I think the points that Commissioner Lloyd White makes are very legitimate. And I think this sends a signal that, I mean, regardless of somebody else, we can always find somebody else that's gotten something, and you don't make things worse by going into a direction that we don't know. We can always manipulate numbers and look like we're getting the funds we need right now, but there's tough times ahead. And if you don't believe that, like I say, I've got a bridge to sell for you. But I think this is a very, very good compromise, and that's why I will be voting no on this.
I don't believe anyone's manipulating numbers of this organization, Supervisor, but thank you for your comments. I don't see any other hands raised.
Chairman?
Yep.
Sanjusino? Just a question for Ann. So we just approved the cost of living raises across the board, correct?
No, sir, that's not what that item was. But that item was to approve a 2.91% cost of living adjustment on the ranges themselves. So our salary ranges moved upward 2.91%. That does not result in automatic cost of living adjustments to all staff salary. RCTC does not do COLAs. In my tenure at RCTC, there was one COLA done after the recession, but we do not do COLAs for everyone's salaries. That salary range shift will impact 7 employees on the bottom end of it who are currently at the bottom of their range. They will get salary adjustments averaging approximately $200 a month. And there may be a couple more people at the top end that may have been impacted, but it is not an across the board.
So what I'm hearing from that is, for the most part, most of our employees are already at the top of their salary range and would need the merit increase to get a raise.
20 to 25% of our employees are at the top end. The majority of employees are in the middle. None of those employees will see any adjustment to their salary. So the majority of our CTC employees will see no adjustment to their salary without the merit increases.
Okay, thank you.
How much is the merit increase?
4%, 4% max.
And who decides it, Ann?
Ultimately I do. Each employee goes through a performance appraisal. We have specific forms where ratings are given, and the ratings are then tabulated and translate into, so if someone receives all 4, on each of the categories, they would get a 4%. If someone got a 2 in the categories, they would only get a 2%. So it's a sliding scale depending on performance, and I sign off on all of them.
Okay, so you actually do them, unlike the county.
We actually do them, sir. Yes, we do. Every year.
All right, thank you.
And
Every year.
what's the average, Ann? Do you have an average number for that the past couple of years?
You know what? I would say the average is probably in the 3 to 4 range. Now, that being said, we'd need to go back, as I mentioned, 20 to 25% of our employees are at the top. So even if the commissioners approve a 4% merit increase, if they only have 1% between their current salary and the top of their range, they only get 1%. So we have a number of employees who it doesn't matter. They can get a 4. They can get the highest rating possible, technically be eligible for 4%, but they'll be capped by wherever they are in their range.
Got it. All right, Supervisor Hewitt again. Supervisor, I think you're mute. You're ahead.
No, there you go. I had my hand still up from the previous one.
Oh, okay. Supervisor Spiegel.
So this would have been for the merit increase for last year. I'm looking at, you're listening carefully to your words, Ann, that you shared, and that is through the next few months, if we move forward with RCA our blended family, the workload may be a little more burdensome for some employees for the next period if this goes through. So with that being said, and RCA employees, of my understanding, just had already received it for this fiscal year merit increases. Is that my understanding correct?
Some of them have, yes.
Okay, so you're bringing in, here mom and dad are going to have this little war of those who got a merit increase and those that didn't. I generally support what's been said by my colleagues as far as the timing is bad financially, even though we're doing okay, but we don't know what the next few months. But I also have to look at our blended family and make sure everybody's going to be happily ever after. And the fact that if we don't get the COLA, I thought we got COLAs. So without the COLAs, there's a whole different picture on this. And the competition with our employees being lured to other agencies is another concern that we have to make sure that we are within. And I think the comp and class redoing that will be very beneficial down the line, but I certainly don't want us to get behind. I know we keep bringing up the county and our experiences, but we had some major challenges with class and comp of being below market. And that jumping a big market change there is more costly than doing an annual small increase if deserved. So just as kind of pondering all this. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other hands raised or any public comment on this motion. Not seeing any on the public comment side. All right. Well, with that, we're ready for a roll call.
District 1,
District 1, yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
No.
Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
No.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Yes.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Coachella, Corona,
Yes.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
Eastvale,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells, Indian Wells, Indio,
Aye.
Rupa Valley,
No.
La Quinta,
Yes.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley, Moreno Valley, Moreno Valley, Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes, from Paris.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
No.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar,
Yes.
Madam Clerk, this is Indian Wells. Did you get my yes vote?
No, we did not, Dana. We didn't hear you. But we'll take that as a yes.
Yes,
Thank-
please.
Thank you. The item passes.
You have a vote count on that?
27 affirmative.
Very good. All right, with that, we will move on to,
Chairman Benoit, may I
Yes.
just express my gratitude to the commission on behalf of RCTC staff. There is a reason why people stay at RCTC for a long time, and please don't underestimate just how important your leadership and regard is. That we are all very proud to work for RCTC, and your regard for staff is very much appreciated, and the action you just took demonstrates it, and it's actually quite motivating to the RCTC team. So thank you very much.
thank you. All right, with that, we'll move on to item number 7, the state and federal legislative update. David Kirkson.
Yes, good morning, Chair Benoit and Commissioners. I'm David Knutson, your Legislative Affairs Manager. This is my first report to the Commission, and I'm happy to be here with you. I'm pleased to provide you with the state and federal update, and I will begin with the state update. September 30th was the deadline for the governor to act on bills sent to him after the legislature adjourned. The legislature sent 428 bills to the governor's desk this year. Of that total, 372 bills were signed and 56 bills were vetoed, which is about a 13% veto rate. In comparison to last year, Governor Newsom's first year in office, he signed 1,016 bills and vetoed 201 bills. That's a 16.5% veto rate. The difference in the number of bills was due to COVID-19 safety protocols, causing a truncated legislative session. There were many high-profile bills, including those related to housing and economic stimulus, which did not make it out of the legislature this year. While the legislature was limited in activities due to COVID-19, the Newsom administration has been very active. With wildfires raging at historic sizes, a budget deficit, and COVID-19 response and recovery issues at hand, the governor has issued executive orders and continued implementation of other policy initiatives, including in the area of climate change and VMT reduction policies. Recently, the governor issued Executive Order N7920 on September 23rd, 2020, to phase out gasoline-powered car sales and reduce the demand for gasoline in California by the year 2035. The order itself does not eliminate gas-powered vehicles. Instead, the executive order directs the California Air Resources Board to develop and propose passenger vehicle and truck regulations leading to 100% zero-emission vehicles sold in the state by the year 2035. Legislation is also likely needed to achieve this goal. CARB is also directed to develop medium and heavy-duty vehicle regulations requiring zero-emission trucks and buses sold and operated in the state by the year 2045. Turning specifically to transportation policy, the governor directed the State Transportation Agency, Caltrans, and the CTC, in consultation with the Department of Finance and other state agencies, to identify near-term actions and investment strategies to improve clean transportation, sustainable freight, and transit options by July 15th, 2021, all the while continuing a fix-it-first approach for the state's transportation system. Significant questions remain as to how this executive order, the resulting policies, and likely new legislation will impact transportation infrastructure investment, especially on the state's highway system. Any reduction in gasoline consumption will reduce SB1 revenue, leading to a decrease in funding available for local transportation projects. Policies included in executive orders like N7920, last year's N1919, and SB 743 implementation will likely impact state investment in highway transportation projects across California, including in Riverside County. As state transportation decision makers consider funding opportunities, projects which do not align with these climate action goals will likely not be funded with state resources in the future. To put it bluntly, staff believes the commission should prepare for the state to cease funding highway capacity expansion in the months and years ahead, increasing the burden on self-help agencies like RCTC to fund such projects while still facing increasing regulatory hurdles to getting those projects approved by state agencies. RCTC 7191 Interchange Improvement Project is an example of the kind of highway projects which may not receive discretionary state funds in the future. RCTC submitted the project for SB1 grant funds, and while we don't know the success of our application, we won't know until November, this project is up against policy headwinds that could challenge the Commission's ability to receive these funds. Looking forward, the new legislative session will be impacted by the issues around the budget deficit, but we will likely see an assortment of transportation-related bill proposals on topics ranging from transit to tolling to project delivery. RCTC staff will plan, monitor, and participate in the legislative process, and we'll seek the Commission's input as the new legislative session unfolds. Turning quickly to the federal update, Congress, as you all know, was able to keep the federal government running by approving a continuing resolution before the end of the federal fiscal year on September 30th, 2020. The continuing resolution will keep the government funded through December 11th. Congress also passed a one-year extension of the current surface transportation programs, known as the FAST Act, before they expired on September 30th, 2020. Congress will work on a new surface transportation legislation next year. Similar to this year's efforts to impact the House version of the surface transportation bill, RCTC will continue to work with our congressional delegation and key congressional committees next year to ensure that future transportation legislation will benefit RCTC. Before I conclude, I would like to mention that RCTC recently found out that we did not receive a federal build grant award for our 7191 interchange improvement project. We were disappointed to hear this news after the hard work our planning and programming staff did to present a competitive application, which also had wide public support. I want to acknowledge Congressman Ken Calvert and his team for their advocacy efforts to help us go after this grant for RCTC, and we will continue to pursue other avenues. This concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
You're on
Chair.
mute, Mr. Chair.
I'm on mute, excuse me. Commissioner Speak, I see you have your hand raised now. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just, it's really disheartening to really hear this, even though I think we've been hearing it, but we're hearing it in plain words that investment from the state in transportation, in moving commuters, which is really what we have, is frankly under attack, and it has been under attack. I think that the final bombs are finally landing, and as a commission, listen, I get that we're self-help, and I understand that, and I think that most of our constituents understand that, but to give up and to allow the state to abandon us, I think is something that we can't do, and I don't know, what else we can do, and I know that Ann, you and your team are fighting as best you can. I don't think I speak for everyone, but I think I speak for a decent amount of people that I'm looking for ways to try and mobilize to talk to our state legislators. I realize this is the governor's plan, the governor's executive order. He's kind of done that on purpose, I think, to isolate or to insulate his some of the legislators folks. But I think we need to really push for an option here that we're showing a balanced approach, that we have one, that we need to fix some of the issues that we have, and to simply put it all on the taxpayers of Riverside County is completely unfair. There needs to be some pushback to those folks, and at the same time, I know, and back in January we were talking about putting together a mitigation plan, maybe with WRCOG on how we could set aside transportation projects or economic development projects, things that basically keep commuters, from getting on the freeway, getting people to work where they live and live where they work. And I know we've talked about that a little bit. I've been talking to some folks at Rick Bishop at WRCOG, and with our own economic development. I think it's time for us to marry those two together, the economic development side and getting folks to work where they live, and getting folks off the freeway. Because if we don't find a way to link those two together, we're going to be doing the same thing. It's investing dollars in our own projects and being constantly left out by the state and by the feds. And I think we need to push in a couple of different directions. That we're still showing that we're self-help. We're not going to be Don Quixote working against the windmill, but we have to have a plan. And I think that we need to, if we don't start on one, and I know we have had plans on how we do this, but I think we need to have one that envelops the economic side too, because every job that we create in Riverside County helps the commission. It's less pressure on our roads, less pressure on the highways, and less pressure on some of these projects that we all want and we all argued for, we all pushed for in our 10-year plan, to fund our not to be forgotten, $8-9 billion or $10 billion worth of B projects. We need to find ways to meet those goals at the same time by not giving up and fighting. So I know I'm not going to, and I know that several of my fellow commissioners aren't going to either. We just have to find a way to mobilize and to make those voices as loud as possible and come from not just us and not just from the commission, but from our constituents, to have a really raised cacophony voice, to have it heard in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioners have any comments on this item? And I was asking when I was on mute earlier, so I'll ask you any public comment on this item. Not seeing any, and I don't see any other hands raised. David, thank you for the update again, even though it wasn't a whole lot of good news in there. So maybe let's work on that for next time, huh?
I think Commissioner Middleton was.
Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you. I'll keep this short. I want to back up what Commissioner Speak said. One of the lessons of this year has been how much of a change the work environment has been, and so much work is now taking place virtually, just as we're holding this meeting. From a public policy standpoint, that's something that we should be encouraging in the future. And I'm not sure what form that takes in terms of legislation and regulation, but that's a conversation for us to have. Wherever we can encourage legitimately work to return to a new normal that does not have people sitting in cars 5 days a week is something that we absolutely need to build on.
And commissioners, I think I very much appreciate the feedback and agree we're going to have to be coordinated, strategic, and think differently given our current environment. We will have an idea at the beginning of November what the CTC staff recommendations are for all the SB1 allocations, and I think that will give us our first clue. Also, at the beginning of the year in January, we will be bringing to you our legislative platform. And so we're taking your feedback and comments right now. And so you can be assured that we will consider these issues in our platform as we bring it back to you at the start of the new calendar year. So thank you for your feedback.
All right, any other comments? Very good. With that, we'll move on to the next item number 8. The Interstate Corridor Operations Project. Michael Blomquist.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Benoit and Commissioners. This morning, I'm going to present the potential for a future improvement on the I-15 corridor at the south end of RCTC's current I-15 Express Lanes project. Today's item proposes to advance a new project on Interstate 15 to provide some traffic relief in the coming years. Next slide, please. The Commission's 2009 Measure A program calls for a new lane in each direction on I-15 from State Route 60 all the way to the San Diego County line. Last year in July of 2019, the Commission adopted priorities for the next 10 years of Measure A capital investments through the approval of the Western County Highway Delivery Plan. This is from 2019 to 2029. This is the middle third of our 30-year measure. That plan is also attached to the staff report as attachments 1 and 2 for your reference. So in this plan, the Commission prioritized the next 10 years of capital investments, including the following on I-15. So group 1 here on the slide are the highest priority projects that are fully funded. The I-15 Express Lanes, Cajalco to State Route 60, currently under construction. The 1591 Express Lanes connector. The I-15, what we call the Southern Extension, State Route 74 to Cajalco Road through the environmental phase. And then the fourth one here in group 1 is the I-15 Express Lanes Advanced Operations, which is the subject of today's item. The group 2 projects are the next highest priority projects. And this is where partial funding is currently available. And you'll see again, the I-15 Express Lanes, the Southern Extension from State Route 74 to Cajalco is on here through the construction phase. So these are the RCTC sponsored projects on the I-15 anticipated for the next 10 years. Next slide, please. So here's an excerpt from the 10-year delivery plan that focuses on the I-15 corridor from State Route 91 to State Route 74. Off to the right in the table, shown in the colors green and orange, are the group 1 and group 2 10-year delivery plan projects that I just mentioned on the previous slide. You'll note all the projects that I highlighted are numbered. For example, the I-15 Express Lanes from Cajalco to State Route 60 that are under construction are, excuse me, are number 2 in the green box. The project that's subject of this staff report is the I-15 Corridor Operations Project. It's denoted as project number 12, and it appears west of Lake Matthews here on the I-15 corridor. Next slide, please. The 4 planned I-15 corridor projects are reflected in this table. So the current I-15 Express Lanes project under construction will result in 2 express lanes in each direction from the 60 to Cajalco, and this project is scheduled to open in several months. The Express Lanes connector at the 1591 interchange is moving forward as well. So you might recall earlier this year, the Commission awarded a design build contract for final design and construction for this important express lane connector that will connect the current 91 express lanes with the 15 express lanes to the north of State Route 91. The third project in this table, it's the proposed southbound lane addition called an auxiliary lane. That's what the staff report's all about, and I'll describe that in a bit more throughout this presentation. And then lastly, the I-15 Express Lane Southern Extension is in the preliminary engineering and environmental document work phase. So this project will result in 2 express lanes in each direction from Cahauca Road to State Route 74. The current work phase of this project is funded. The project is scheduled to open in 2028 if funding is available for the future work phases. Next slide, please. The I-15 Express Lanes project currently under construction ends at Cahauca Road to the south. Associated with this project limit are lane drops of both general purpose and express lanes to transition back to and match the existing number of southbound lanes south of Cahauca Road. The 15 COP's purpose is to provide some interim congestion relief by improving traffic operations in this targeted area. The project will provide an additional lane from the Cahauca Road southbound on-ramp to the Wyrick Road southbound off-ramp. This southbound auxiliary lane will extend just under 1 mile. So one of the key aspects of the project being proposed is that it is being planned to be completed and open in 2024, about midway between the 2 large express lane corridor projects. The current I-15 Express Lanes is scheduled to open in several months, and the future I-15 Southern Extension is estimated to open in year 2028. The 15 corridor operations project would provide some interim congestion relief around the Cahauca Road and Wyrick Road area in advance of the full I-15 Express Lane Southern Extension. Staff has also considered our recent experience after opening the State Route 91 project in 2017. Several areas of localized congestion resulted. Based on those results, staff analyzed potential solutions, and the commission approved going forward with several improvements, with the largest being the current State Route 91 corridor operations project now under construction. That's a westbound lane, auxiliary lane from Green River Road to State Route 241. So based on that 91 corridor experience over the last 3 years, staff is proactively proposing to develop the 15 corridor operations project in advance of the I-15 Express Lanes project opening. Next slide, please. The 15 COP will provide new southbound median pavement, resulting in shifting existing traffic lanes to that new median pavement and repurpose the existing outside lane to be the new auxiliary lane. The new auxiliary lane constructed would extend just under 1 mile. The 15 COP also includes widening the Bedford Canyon Wash Bridge to accommodate both the 15 COP as well as the median improvements needed for the future I-15 Express Lanes project Southern Extension. The current proposed project would eliminate any Bedford Canyon Wash Bridge reconstruction when the future project is constructed. The current 15 COP improvements are also compatible with these future corridor improvements, and the auxiliary lane itself will be perpetuated. This bridge widening also minimizes the environmental impacts and necessary permitting needed within the Bedford Canyon Wash. So this is significant in that the commission will only need to study, mitigate, permit, and construct in the Bedford Canyon Wash one time. Next slide, please. Staff proposes an aggressive project delivery schedule using 2 approaches. The first approach is to overlap project work phases. For example, in the schedule shown on the slide here, staff is proposing about a 1-year overlap of the preliminary engineering environmental document work phase with the final design work phase. The second approach is to conduct a non-competitive or sole source procurement for final design. This will result in some efficiencies gained by using the same consultant between these 2 work phases, as well as saving the time needed to conduct a competitive procurement. Staff is proposing both of these approaches to save time that will allow this auxiliary lane to open sooner and achieve the expected additional congestion relief. Staff estimates that using these 2 approaches together will save about 2 years, 10 months versus more traditional project delivery approaches. Next slide, please. The 15 COP total project cost for all work phases is estimated at about $33 million. Each work phase estimate is reflected in this table. The estimated cost for the preliminary engineering environmental document work phase, the final design work phase, and the construction management work phase each include commission staff and other support costs such as Bechtel program management. The estimated construction costs of $26.8 million reflect an escalation of current construction year costs to the middle year of construction, estimated to be 2023. Estimated costs for the 15 COP preliminary engineering environmental document work phase and final design work phase for this current year, fiscal year 2020-2021, are $2 million. Since these costs were not included in the current fiscal year 2021 budget, staff recommends the commission approve a budget adjustment of $2 million to increase expenditures for the 15 COP for the expected expenses for these two work phases this year. Next slide, please. Staff assessed the type and potential amounts of available fund sources to develop the 15 COP all the way through construction and opening. This assessment results in two sources proposed to fund project development. The first proposed fund source is Measure A sales tax revenue bond proceeds that are remaining from the I-15 Express Lanes project. The key point here is that the effective management of this project has resulted in a projection of approximately $25 million in unspent Measure A sales tax revenue bonds. These unspent proceeds can be used for all phases of project development. Staff is proposing these funds be used to benefit the same area on I-15 in the form of this I-15 COP improvement project. The second proposed fund source is federal grant funds, congestion management air quality funds specifically. These federal formula funds can be used only on certain types of RCTC projects, those that include carpool lanes, express lanes, and auxiliary lanes. 13.3 million is available and would be programmed in the Federal Transportation Improvement Program for construction phase costs. Next slide, please. Today, staff is seeking several key actions for the I-15 corridor operations project. First, staff is seeking authorization to implement all project development activities needed to complete construction of the I-15 corridor operations project, including immediately commencing the preliminary engineering environmental document work phase. Staff would return to the commission with future contract award recommendations for the construction management and construction contracts that would be competitively procured. Second, staff is seeking the commission authorize the executive director to negotiate and execute a contract amendment or a new contract with HDR Engineering to provide final design services. Third, staff is seeking to fund the project using $25 million in Measure A sales tax revenue bond proceeds and $13.3 million in federal congestion mitigation and air quality funds for an estimated total of $38.3 million of Measure A and CMAQ funds. Typical for projects on the state highway system, the commission executes non-funding agreements with Caltrans for each work phase to deliver the project. Staff is seeking that the commission authorize the chair or executive director to execute all future non-funding agency-to-agency agreements to advance the project. Lastly, staff is seeking approval of an increase of $2 million in the current fiscal year budget 2021 for preliminary engineering environmental document and final design work phase expenditures related to the 15 COP. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Very good. I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, comments, questions? And Wes, I'm sure you'll be all on board with this, and I know I am too, so looking forward to this. Wes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you to staff for having some foresight with this, because, you know, with this will do nothing to address the 3 lane drops that, you know, we've talked about previously, you know, as folks, because we're going to be going from 5 lanes to 3 lanes, and there's going to be a heck of a backup. So I want to thank staff for thinking ahead and getting this project, you know, wedged in. I want to thank our contractor for being under budget. So we have some money to do this, and also having the forethought. So we're only disturbing, well, this will be the second time we'll be disturbing Bedford Canyon Wash, well, at least part of it, because of the previous projects that we've done at Calco and the Bedford Canyon project. So I think I did ask this question at the Western Programs meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate the fact that the cost is higher than average because of that, you know, the work that we're going to be doing, and it'll allow us only to have to pay for this mitigation once, and then we're not going to be double paying what the city of Corona and RCTC did for Calco. So we're not going to be double paying for our mitigation and trying to be as efficient as possible. this project, I want to tell you how much this project is going to be needed. I mean, already seeing the 15 project being kind of open tentatively to have people kind of stay in the lanes. We're already seeing backups, and that's with, traffic that's not anywhere near COVID. So hopefully this project can move very quickly. And my colleagues are in support of this, and we can get this thing moving very fast and then start working on our other projects, our other problems on the 15. But this will be one problem that we can get ahead of, at least, speed up. Thanks.
Very good. Any other commissioner comments?
Mr. Chairman, San Jacinto.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Very excited to see us coming in under budget on one project and then reapportion those funds to make the original project that much better. I think that just makes perfect sense. But the one cautionary tale regarding these projects I would like to remind everyone on, as we are looking at our multimodal plan later today, and as we just heard previously in our legislative update regarding state and federal dollars potentially drying up for projects, the main idea behind this entire commission and the original Measure A was connecting Riverside County to Riverside County, not connecting Riverside County to San Diego County, not connecting Riverside County to Orange County, not connecting Riverside County to LA County. But we need to remember and focus while we can, and while those state dollars are still available, that we have a multitude of infill projects connecting our county so that we can keep those jobs in the county, so that we can keep people off the 15 and 91. So I do support this, but we definitely need to remember where our focus really needs to be on these projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Spiegel?
I understand what the mayor from Paris is saying, but having been living through the challenge with the 91, and yes, it's connecting our Riverside County residents to their jobs in other counties. Do we like it? No, but it's reality and we had to work with it. The challenge is if we don't invest on these projects, you will be hurting tremendously the cities along the 15 with all the lane drops. People get off the freeways, they wander through cities just to be on the city streets. Now, that's not the job of the highways and freeways, but it is our job as representing those communities that have residents that get backed up, blocking all kinds of, you all heard the stories of what happened was in Corona, and we had to do working through, and now we have our cop going through to Orange County line, which is much needed. So this is now catching it before it's a real issue, and I do appreciate us jumping on this early on and that taking care of with those lane drops, because I know we've been addressing those lane drops for years when we first brought this as a way of being fixed at the time. So I thank you for bringing this forward now rather than waiting till the project was done. It's going to help ease the process. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. And just so you know, that was Councilmember Russ Utz from San Jacinto, not the Mayor of Paris.
Well, you don't have your picture on the screen.
Yeah. Our next speaker, go ahead, Mrs. Mayor.
So, commissioners, just a couple of follow-up points to the issues that Commissioner Utz raises. In this commission, increasingly will need to have conversations about priorities, and if we have additional funds or if we have savings on projects, talking about what how that money is invested in the commissioner's next priorities. In this particular instance, the reason why staff went straight to recommending that we invest in this additional auxiliary lane is because the scope of the I-15 project was originally much larger. and it was truncated to Cahalco Road because of a lack of funding. So staff felt that if there were savings on the original I-15 project, that it would be most appropriate for it to go into additional improvements on I-15, because that was the corridor that was originally impacted by a loss of funding or lack of funding. But if that wasn't the case, we probably would have brought you a different recommendation so you all could have talked about next priorities. And I think the connecting our communities is an important conversation you will have. But I just wanted to share that the reason we went straight to this as a recommendation was because way back in 2010, the commission had to truncate the project on I-15 to the disadvantage of the I-15 jurisdictions.
If I could jump back in for a second, Ben.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Just to make sure I'm not being misunderstood, I think it's a great idea to reprogram the dollars back into that 15 corridor project, because that's where they came from because of the savings. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. I was just talking more big picture, kind of when other choices come along that we need to make sure we're focusing inside, not outside.
Very good.
Move to
All right,
approve,
any other-
Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion by Mayor Vargas from Paris.
I'll second.
Second by West Speak from Corona. And with that, we'll go ahead and take a roll call, please.
District 1,
I believe you had to step off.
thank you. District 2,
Yes.
District 3, District 3, District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes. And 3 is a yes.
thank you. Banning,
Yes.
Beaumont,
Yes.
Blythe,
Yes.
Calamasa,
Yes.
Canyon Lake,
Aye. I wouldn't unmute.
Cathedral City,
Yes.
Corona,
Aye.
Desert Hot Springs,
Aye.
East Bell,
Aye.
Hemet,
Yes.
Indian Wells, Indian Wells, Indio,
Aye.
Harupa Valley,
Yes.
La Quinta,
Aye.
Lake Elsinore,
Aye.
Menifee,
Yes.
Moreno Valley, Marietta,
Yes.
Norco,
Yes.
Palm Desert,
Yes.
Palm Springs,
Aye.
Paris,
Yes.
Rancho Mirage,
Yes.
Riverside,
Yes.
San Jacinto,
Yes.
Temecula,
Yes.
Wildemar.
Yes.
That item passes.
Very good. We didn't have any items pulled from the consent calendar, so we'll go on to item number 10, the Commissioner and Executive Director's Report. Any commissioners have anything to report on? No one's got any events to go to or anything? Actually, here in Wildemar, we do have an event. Oh, I see Michael Vargas' hand raised, but real quick, just so everyone knows, we are doing a Halloween event here in Wildemar. We're doing a laser light show at our park. And it is all socially distanced. You will drive in and park in the parking lot of the park and sit in your car and watch the laser light show. So we are having that the coming weekend before Halloween. So there are some events out there, just all a little different this year. Mayor Vargas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to give a shout out to Ann and her staff for all the projects that they have been doing throughout this pandemic. It's incredible. And I know I didn't speak earlier, but I like to move along through agenda items. I don't like to prolong items. But I think it needs to really stand out that this organization, less than 1% is spent on salaries, and that's incredible. So, Ann, thank you and your staff for all you do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Any other commissioner comments? If not, Ann, you have an update for RCA for us?
I do. Commissioners, good morning again. It's almost afternoon, so I think we'll be done soon. Commissioners, back in August, the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority requested RCTC to consider becoming its managing agency, taking care of day-to-day operations of that organization and managing the implementation of the Western Riverside County Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Plan. We have completed our 60-day due diligence process on that effort. We've analyzed the financial implications, legal implications, the organizational implications. At this point, we've not found any fatal flaws related to serving as the managing agency for RCA. This morning at the executive committee meeting, we discussed a draft implementing agreement that would be the mechanism by which RCTC would serve as the managing agency for RCA. The draft agreement, we wanted to start having discussions now, both with the RCTC and RCA boards, but also wanted to make sure that the draft implementing agreement would be available to other elected officials on both boards, as well as the public and stakeholders in advance of any decisions being made by either boards. The benefits to RCTC related to serving in this capacity are that Measure A is the single biggest financial contributor to the conservation plan in Western Riverside County. Measure A carved out $153 million, so we are the single biggest investor of the plan. Our projects are all implemented in accordance with the plan in Western Riverside County, and since the plan's been implemented, it has the permit has resulted in us saving 2 to 3 years off of the environmental process. So the plan itself, the permit itself, is very important to the work that RCTC does. We've also identified opportunities for administrative and governmental efficiencies in terms of consolidating efforts, joint funding of staffing positions that are, that provide work that benefit both organizations, consolidation in the areas of lobbying, governmental affairs, right-of-way acquisition, contracting, outreach, and legal services as well. So from a public policy standpoint, it seems to make some good sense. So we are continuing down the path towards bringing you all at our November commission meeting a draft implementing agreement, a detailed presentation on what this would mean for RCTC, as well as the associated budget implications. There would be firewalls, financial firewalls and legal firewalls between the two agencies. But I just wanted to flag you to the fact that our November meeting will likely have an extensive conversation of this, and you will be asked to consider it for approval. The RCA board will be considering this at this time. It is scheduled for them to consider this at their November 2nd meeting. And so if approved by both boards, it would be implemented effective January 1st of 2020. So that is a very quick summary of several months worth of work. I am available offline if you want to have a detailed meeting or have any questions. Our executive committee item is available. And actually, Lisa, can we send the executive committee item with the staff report and the draft agreement to all commissioners? Yes. It is also available online. So with that, I complete my report on an update related to RCA.
Very good, thank you. Any questions on that item, or it's actually not really an item, but it's on that update?
I did have one quick question, Ben.
Mayor Zimmerman, go right ahead.
Thank you. So, Ann, I know we're going to have a discussion in November about it, but just a 30,000-foot elevation question. Who initiated this idea? Where did the idea come from of consolidating? Was that something that the CEO of the county wanted to do for financial reasons, or is it your idea? Who initiated this?
I can assure you it was not my idea. So I can assure you of that. I would probably defer to some of the commissioners who are also serve on the RCA board, but the RCA executive director retired a year ago. So that board was in the process of recruiting for a replacement executive director. And during that process, their internal discussions led them to having this conversation about what other options did they have instead of hiring a new executive director and continuing their current arrangement with the county of Riverside, what other options there were, and they asked RCTC to consider serving in this role. So it generated out of that discussion too, as far as I am aware.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Any other questions?